And Britain is going to rejoin the EU student exchange scheme that will open the door to tens of thousands young Europeans up to the age of 30. How young is that?
Well, it's younger than us, Andrew. The government considers BBC reforms that could bring adverts, subscriptions and free TV licences for benefit claimants, paid for by the middle classes.
Hello. Yeah, there's one in there. Yeah.
Well, GBNews has joined an immigration raid in Swindon, where 29 people from India and Albania were arrested at a construction site suspected of working illegally in the UK. Don't miss it.
But we now have a chance to hit the reset button on the relationship between junior doctors and their government.
That's the Health Secretary Wes Streeting last year, hopeful of securing an end to junior doctors going on strike. But it didn't work, because they've downed tools again this morning for 5 days of strike in the middle of this flu epidemic.
Yes, in a move that's been slammed by Health Secretary Wes Streeting, this strike action has gone ahead. We're at Hull Royal Infirmary on the picket line, where resident doctors here are asking pay restoration for our doctors, fix our pay, retain our doctors and protect the NHS.
I think the government has taken leave of its senses. So they're going to make you and me pay more for our TV licence, so benefit claimants get it for free.
It's crazy, and we don't need any more incentives for people to stay on benefits and not work. We've got one more now. You get a free TV licence. It doesn't make sense. The price should be set by how much something costs rather than your ability to pay. Was it 800,000 people stopped paying for their licence last year? I think if they do this, it will lead to a mass boycott of the TV licence, and I wouldn't blame people. But there were lots of other controversial proposals in this Green Paper, including introducing advertising, which is initially, as a viewer, you just think, oh, well, that would be annoying. But actually, it'd be a huge threat to other channels, because BBC has such a massive audience that advertisers would flock to the BBC, spend all their money there, and other channels that don't have the haven't got the background of all those years of the licence fee would lose out.
Yeah, and the licence fee is raising £4.5 billion, and there's no move whatsoever to get rid of the licence fee. You pay more for the BBC licence fee than most people pay for their Netflix subscription. The average Netflix subscription is £12.99 a month, and the licence fee is going to go up to over £180 next year. So that is more expensive.
It is, absolutely, and people won't want every subscription.
No.
Anyway, there's no senior leadership in charge of the BBC at the moment, so I doubt they'll be considering these proposals. We'll see.
Well, as ever, we all know what you think, so send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at 9:33. The top story: patients are being warned to expect significant disruption as resident doctors begin their 5-day strike in England. NHS England says non-urgent care will be affected, with hospitals under pressure from a surge in flu cases, though emergency services are still open. The surviving suspect in Sunday's Bondi Beach shooting has been charged with 59 offences, including 15 murders and a terrorist act. The attack killed 15 people at a Hanukkah event targeting Sydney's Jewish community, the deadliest mass shooting in Australia since 1996. UK inflation has fallen more than expected, easing pressure on households. The ONS says inflation dropped to 3.2% in November, driven mainly by lower food prices and Black Friday clothing discounts, though it's still above the 2% target. A fresh small boat surge is underway this morning, with hundreds of migrants attempting to cross the channel. Smuggling gangs have used a brief weather window to launch boats from the French coast, with around 400 people already at sea. And breaking news in the last few minutes: a 15-year-old boy has been charged with the murder of 9-year-old Aria Thorpe in Weston-super-Mare. Police say she was found dead at home on Monday evening, with a post-mortem confirming a single stab wound. And the UK is set to rejoin the Erasmus scheme 5 years after leaving the EU programme. UK students will be able to study and train in Europe again from January 2027, with ministers expected to confirm the move today. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup from the newsroom at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, GB News can exclusively reveal a fresh small boat surge is underway. This is just days, of course, after that government minister said they were winning the war against small boats. Hundreds more migrants are crossing the channel as we speak to you.
Well, joining us now is GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White, who joins us live from Dover. Mark, this lack of boat crossings has been short-lived, hasn't it? What can you see?
Well, we are waiting for the first Border Force vessel to come in here with the occupants, we think, of 2 migrant boats that they've picked up. That's a Border Force vessel, Hurricane, due in hopefully within the next hour or so. We are seeing now multiple boats crossing the channel. Our sources are suggesting that between 400 to 500 migrants currently in the channel attempting to get to the UK. And what's extraordinary about this is we have a tiny weather window, just 12 hours, and it really just, I think, put pace to all the talk about is this government policy that's bringing about a reduction in the number of migrants who cross the channel over the last month. There were no crossings for 28 days. We said that was because of the weather. At the weekend, 750 crossed when the weather improved. Then the weather got bad again for a few days. Now this just 12 hours, and we're seeing this very significant activity with multiple Border Force vessels. They're calling on the assistance of the lifeboats as well to help them.
Thank you, Mark. And we'll be coming back to Mark throughout the day, actually, as he spots those boats arriving.
Weren't they going to smash the gangs, Miriam? The Labour government?
Indeed, smash the gangs, stop the boats. Well, I think the most powerful phenomenon in all this is the weather. That's the only thing that seems to be able to stop the illegal crossings.
Now, the think tank Policy Exchange, this is really interesting, I think, says we need an emergency census. Remember, they're done every 10 years. Tells how the population, racial makeup and age of everybody, because it says the huge surge in immigration in the last few years is causing, as we know, havoc for housing, schools, the NHS, all sorts of things.
Well, the last census was in 2021, and the next census of England and Wales is not due to take place until 2031. So are authorities currently working with outdated data? Well, Ian Mansfield is the Director of Research at Policy Exchange, and he joins us now. Ian, good morning. Thank you for joining us on Britain's Newsroom. Good morning. This is a fascinating suggestion from Policy Exchange that we need an emergency census. Normally they're every 10 years. Why do you think that's too infrequent?
Well, in general, 10 years works well. But if you look at the huge surge of immigration we had nearly 4 million people come to this country just between 2021 and 2024 alone. And that's an enormous surge. You also have the fact that the last census was taken during COVID, when some people were living at home, had gone back to be with relatives, and so weren't actually where they normally would be. And although this is an unusual suggestion, it's not without precedent. So in 1966, there was a similar emergency census taken with cross-party consensus because of both large-scale migration from the Commonwealth and also quite a lot of movement within the UK, particularly from the north to the south. So this has been done before, and the absolutely unprecedented scales of immigration we've seen really demands that it should happen again.
And of course, Ian, also, there's a lot of people, migrants, who've vanished. We just,
absolutely.
I mean, I've read figures could be up to 500,000 migrants have vanished, which is, again, putting huge pressure on housing, the NHS, schools.
Absolutely. I think when you look at how some of this data is collected, it's not always very reliable on a day-to-day basis. I mean, we learned recently that the way in which they estimate the number of British people emigrating is they look at if someone is no longer paying tax or on the payroll and they're not claiming benefits, they assume they've emigrated. Well, that's clearly not always going to be the case. And as you say, the pressure on councils, on schools, on hospitals, on housing, local councils need to know who they have in order to be able to plan those public services. One of the things we've called for is that, as well as the broad-based census, there should be some deep dives in some areas where there have been particular levels of population change. And Preston, for example, the population's increased by 10% over the last 5 years. That's phenomenal change for one city. And there are other other areas as well that we pick out, Luton, for example, and where you have this very rapid demographic change, the state needs to know who is there, who it's responsible for, who should be paying tax, who do they need to provide services for.
And in just the unprecedented, you mentioned, President, that's an extraordinary rise in population. What do you think has caused it? Is it all migration?
It's not. I mean, it's not all migration, but a large amount of it is. And if we look at places like Preston, like Luton, often we see that, very naturally, if new migrants come to the country, they want to move to where their relatives are, to where there's a community, to maybe where there are places of worship. And that's a completely understandable thing. It's a very natural human urge. But again, this can place pressure on social cohesion, where you get communities growing up side by side, which essentially don't mix, don't talk to each other. It's the thing why integration is so important, and that has sadly been neglected by the government over recent years.
Now, Ian, you point out in your paper that between June 2021 and June 2024, probably 3.9 million people came to the UK. And of course, because that was after the most recent census, we know nothing about these people, average age, earnings data, health data. What kind of mistakes do you think the government might now be making just as a result of out-of-date or incomplete data?
So, I mean, you've got some very basic things on, for example, school places. So we've had a number of occasions over the last few years where the Department for Education has had to update its estimates quite substantially for the number of people on school rolls. You've got things like people are making big long-term decisions. The NHS will be about where hospitals need expanding or siting, and so forth. Of course, you can get some estimate of this by looking at where new building is taking place. But often the case, this immigration isn't going into new building because, house building has just fallen to one of its lowest on records. What we're often seeing is what you might call involuntary densification. People, houses being divided into multiple occupancy, people moving in to live with relatives. That's not obvious to a local authority, which needs to plan the public services that we need, and it just causes surprises. And then when you get surprises, you get that pressure which is felt by everyone, including the long-term residents.
And of course, this government has a pledge, of building 1.5 million houses in the lifetime of this Parliament. You're just telling us that house building is at an historic low. And of course, if we did do this census, we'd probably discover they need a lot more than 1.5 million houses over the duration of the next 5 years.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at if you go back to around 2000 or so, which is when sort of the era of mass migration really began, roughly, there are different estimates, but roughly about half, sort of 40 to 60% of the new housing that has been built had been built just to keep pace with immigration. And if you look particularly over that 2021 to 2024 period, what some people call the Boris wave, you actually look that the number of new houses being built was fewer than was needed to cope with net migration. Now, migration has fallen a bit this year, but unfortunately, house building has fallen too. And it was, they need to be building 300,000 a year to hit that target, and it's only just over 200,000.
Now, if the government were to accept your recommendation...
Which they won't.
Well, let's see, it's a great idea to conduct emergency census. You advise that they should drop the questions regarding gender identity. Why have you come up with that suggestion?
Well, I mean, this was a bit of a farce at the last census. So firstly, there was a whole legal row in which the ONS got taken to court by a number of people. I think Professor Alice Sullivan at UCL was involved because they were going to ask this question, which was just completely misleading. It conflated sex and gender identity. The ONS lost this battle in court, and yet when they asked it gave obviously wrong results because lots of people couldn't understand it. And I think my favourite stat from the census, which is in our report by Policy Exchange, is that supposedly there are more trans people in the London borough of Newham, which is an area which has a large number of socially conservative Bangladeshis, than there are in Brighton. And this can't be true, and it just this question was nonsense. And what we're suggesting, it should focus on people, age, ethnicity, nationality. We're proposing that we go down to greater levels of detail on things like religion. So ask about Catholic and Protestant, Sunni and Shia. We know that actually this can make a huge impact on community tensions and community relations. And we ask, some of the core questions which the government needs to understand. So it would be a streamlined version of the census, cheaper to run than the full thing, and then with these deep dives in around half a dozen areas where there's been very, very rapid population change.
Well, I think it sounds very sensible.
Absolutely, yes.
And I'm
very
laying
much.
money on it. The government won't do it.
Well, we hope you are
Could there be some
successful, Ian.
uncomfortable answers?
There could absolutely be some uncomfortable answers, and for the previous government. Ian Mansfield, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Very good report.
Yeah, I
Thank you
think
very
the
much.
question about gender identity was worded so badly that if English wasn't your first language, you really wouldn't know what it is. It was something like, do you now identify as a gender different to your birth sex, or something like that?
No.
Well, if English is not your first language, even if English is your first language, quite frankly, how do you know what to write?
Why can't it just be male or female?
I think
Tick
that's
the
what they're
box.
suggesting going back to.
Can we just be back to normal?
Absolutely.
Am I allowed
Bring
to
back
use that
common
word,
sense.
normal? Am I allowed to use that word? Probably
Yes,
not.
we need to revive that word.
Yes,
Well,
still ahead.
Sir Keir Starmer has spent £60,000
Outrageous.
on a private plane to watch the Lionesses Euros final. But I wonder how the Environment Secretary, Ed Miliband, feels about all those cars.
He took his wife and 10 officials to watch a football match.
Well, he needs support.
Couldn't you watch it on the telly? Up next, resident doctors hit the picket line this morning. Do you have any sympathy for them? I certainly don't. Or are you with Team West Streeting, who's currently being questioned at the Health Committee, and I imagine the strike will be dominating the questions.
I'm sure it will be. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's a forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away for some sunshine? Well, it's quite wet actually across parts of Spain, Italy and France, as well as the Canary Islands. We've got some very unsettled weather, a risk of showers for Tenerife through Thursday, and a risk of outbreaks of heavy rain and thunderstorms spread across Spain, Italy and France through Thursday. It does look a little bit drier to end the week, and across eastern areas of the Mediterranean, there's plenty of dry weather to come through Friday and into the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, one of my family members, friends, was looking after me one day, like babysitting me. And then on that day, it was a well-trusted friend of our family, was babysitting me and took me upstairs, and he raped and abused me. So from then on, I've suffered and suffered. One of the things that he did say to me was that he would kill me or hurt me in my sleep. So ever since then, I've always suffered with PTSD, night terrors. It never goes away.
It took 20 years for you to face it to
20
this.
years, yeah, to ever come out about what had ever happened to me. My parents didn't know, I didn't tell them anything.
Because a lot of men in your position, a lot of boys in position, they'd rather just take the burden of shame on that comes at a great, can come at a great cost.
Yeah, lots of friends and family. And I was just scared to tell him, you know, because obviously as well, if I did ever say anything about it, he was going to come and get me. So I managed to find an organisation, which is charity run, called Arch Teesside, which is near where I live. And I went to go see them. And my therapy at the time, the guy was called Dave Taylor. And he was a big guy, full of tattoos. And, you know, when you see somebody, you think, how am I going to open up to somebody, this man, you know? And I hit it off, like, straight away. And I've always told him, this is what I love doing. I love going to the gym. I want to step on stage by the time I'm 40. And then that's what I went and did.
And look at you there, man. I mean,
what modelling shots, yeah.
You said in your book there, hold your book up, people want to get a copy of this book. Tell them what it's called, mate.
Buy the book.
What's the book called, mate? Tell them.
It's called Breaking the Silence, A Champion's Journey.
And this is it. And your message that you say, if you help one other person out there to channel their pain into purpose, mission accomplished, mate.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We did everything we could to avert these strikes, even meeting for hours with BMA officials yesterday to see if even at the 11th hour we could avert the strikes. After constructive discussions, we still weren't able to persuade the BMA either to come into negotiations or indeed to delay strikes to January as I had offered. Our entire focus now is on keeping patients safe, particularly over the next 5 days of strike action, but also through what is the peak period for the NHS.
Well, that's the Health Secretary, but his words have fallen on deaf ears because they are on strike.
Yep.
5-day strike. They want a 26% pay rise after a 29% pay rise, which was the first thing the government did when they got into power.
Yeah, and they want more jobs, and that is something that West Streeting has offered to fix.
Yeah.
So the fact that they turned it down does prove what everybody suspected, which is the BMA has become increasingly political.
They're the new
Labour.
They are the new militant tendency, I'm afraid.
Well, joining us now is GB News reporter Anna Riley, who is live at the picket line. Anna, have you been speaking to some striking doctors this morning?
Oh no, I thought I'd wear my orange jacket.
Good morning, yes I have. We're here at Hull Royal Infirmary. You can see the striking resident doctors behind us. Lots of banners up. One here says £18.62 an hour is not a fair wage for a resident doctor. Patients need doctors need jobs, pay restoration for doctors. I'm joined now by Becky Lavelle. She's a resident doctor here. So we've seen these signs here, £18.62 hour is not a fair wage. What would you say to that people might be saying, you know, the NHS is stretched, there's not that budget to pay doctors that money, and they do get more money in the long run as they go up the levels, as they train more?
So, I mean, actually, that's not really the case anymore. So many of these doctors will be stuck in the early years of being a doctor. Well, they'll be on these low wages for several years, not getting guaranteed progress. And the problem is that we have bottlenecks now where doctors can't get into training. They can't train to become the consultants and the GPs of tomorrow. And that means that when we're asking for, you know, just under £23 an hour, that's because doctors need to be able to get into those training programs. It needs to be a sustainable system, and we just don't have that at the moment.
And obviously it was rejected what the government offered. They said they'd make more specialist job roles, they'd also pay for exam fees as well.
Yeah, so the offer that was put to our members was rejected by 83% of doctors. And actually, with 29,000 votes, that's more than Mr. Streeting got in his constituency at the last general election. So we have a really emphatic mandate to say it simply isn't good enough. When he says they're going to pay our exam fees, that is pennies on the pound. What we actually need is sustainable investment, and we need to reform the training system so that we can retain doctors in this country and train the specialists of tomorrow.
Thank you, Becky. So that's the view from the picket line here from resident doctors at Hull Royal Infirmary.
Thanks very much, Anna. That's Anna Riley and the picket line in Hull. I have to say, I don't think they've got the public on side at all this time.
No, I think they've lost a lot of sympathy. Well, still ahead, have we seen an almighty Brexit betrayal as Labour opens the doors to tens of thousands of EU students? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Yeah.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain to come for many in the west today, with rain warnings in force and delays to travel expected. And across the east, there could be some disruption from fog this morning. A warning out across many central eastern areas of fog through the first part of this morning, but that will soon be replaced by cloud and rain as we head into this afternoon. The rain will turn particularly heavy across western areas, parts of Wales, northwest England, western Scotland, southwestern areas of England as well, seeing some very heavy heavy rain. There could be some gusty winds around as well. A milder day on the whole, but very little in the way of sunshine to make the most of those milder temperatures. The rain continues into this evening. There's still a warning in force. We're likely to see quite a lot of water on the roads, particularly across parts of Cornwall and Devon, as well as South Wales, where we've seen a lot of rain over the past couple of weeks. Slightly drier across parts of the far northwest by the time we get to this evening, but there will still be some showers, some of these quite heavy. There's a risk of hail in there too, and some very wet weather across southern areas of Scotland. Across the far east, it will be somewhat drier, but a lot of cloud around, and it could be quite misty and murky. That rain very slowly pushes eastwards overnight tonight, and it will actually return up from the south by the time we head into Thursday. But before then, some clearer skies to come for the northern portion of the UK, Northern Ireland and Scotland, seeing plenty of dry weather overnight. A lot of cloud elsewhere, and as I said, it's going to be quite a murky night. A lot of low cloud lingering. The rain pushes back up from the south through Thursday morning, bringing some very wet weather to southern counties of England, and then once again it's parts of South Wales and southwestern England that will see the heaviest rain throughout Thursday. So there's further disruption to travel expected, more warnings in force. That rain will slowly push northwards, but we are expecting a very damp couple of days, so please keep an eye on the forecast. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say, because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Significant disruptions affect the M80 southbound between junctions 4A and 4 due to a road incident. Traffic is congested on the A470 southbound from Nantgarv to Corriton. In Warwickshire, northbound lanes on the A46 between the M40 and A4177 are blocked by an overturned vehicle. The M27's eastbound lane in Hampshire between junctions 2 and 3 is delayed. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces disruptions between Crewe and Runcorn, while East Midlands Railway is delayed between Luton and London St Pancras. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Wednesday the 17th of December. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Another small boat surge underway this morning. Hundreds more migrants crossing the channel this morning illegally.
Well, dramatic scenes in the English Channel, not just those hundreds crossing, but with the winds picking up, we've had reports of some migrants in the water.
Well, there are urgent calls for an emergency census as mass migration overwhelms housing and public services. Is Britain bursting at the seams?
And post-Brexit, Britain is rejoining the EU student exchange scheme. It's going to open the door to tens of thousands of Europeans coming here up to the age of 30.
Elsewhere, resident doctors hit the picket line this morning for 5 days of strike action. Meanwhile, Health Secretary Wes Streeting is questioned by MPs at the Health Committee.
This is now the 14th time that resident doctors have been on strike since this first started in March 2023. But they're not backing down. They're saying they want pay restoration and they want the jobs as well. So we'll be speaking to resident doctors a little bit later on about this strike.
And the government considers BBC reforms which could bring advertisement subscriptions and, get this, free TV licences for benefit claimants paid for by people who are working.
Hello. Yeah, one in there. Yeah.
Well, GBNews joined an immigration raid in Swindon where 29 people from India and Albania were arrested at a construction site suspected of working illegally in the UK.
What happens abroad does play out here on the streets in the UK, particularly here in London, but across all of the rest.
Transport networking and other crowded places as they warn of an increased terror risk over the festive period. Do you feel safe in your town or city centre?
It's really interesting, that proposal from Policy Exchange to have an emergency census next year, because with the population increasing so much, there's a lot we don't know about the people in this country.
And why are there surges in specific towns? Luton, he cited, Preston, nearly all of it down to migration. Is it illegal migration?
But it means that so much of the information that we have and the data that we talk about, even on this show, is probably out of date and inaccurate. We don't know what housing shortage there really is. We don't know the state of school places or GP places. I think it's a brilliant idea. I don't think the government will accept it, but they should.
And of course, what were they fussing about in the last sentence? Your gender.
Yeah, gender identity and I think ethnic identity as well. There was a decline in number of people saying they were English because British were at the top of the list and English was right down at the bottom, so people didn't see it and tick the box.
Ridiculous.
It was not very well designed, but interestingly, that the only other time there's been an emergency census was in 1966, when again it was immigration that gave rise to calls for that emergency measure. They were worried about Commonwealth immigration, but isn't that interesting? It's history
1966 was that emergency census, and in the following year, Enoch Powell made his very famous Rivers of Blood speech, 1967.
So people had similar concerns.
He certainly did. Now, as ever, we want to know what you think, so do please send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at just after 10 o'clock. Well, patients across England are being warned today to expect major disruption as resident doctors begin a 5-day strike. NHS leaders say the walkouts have come at one of the worst possible moments for the health service. Hospitals already under pressure from a surge in flu cases, with non-urgent care affected and senior doctors drafted in to cover emergency services during the strike. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is this morning appearing live before the Health and Social Care Committee as those talks with the British Medical Association remain at this stage deadlocked. And earlier today, Wes Streeting insisted the government did everything it could to avert the strike and apologised directly to patients for the disruption.
We did everything we could to avert these strikes, even meeting for hours with BMA officials yesterday to see if even at the 11th hour we could avert the strikes. After constructive discussions, we still weren't able to persuade the BMA either to come into negotiations or indeed to delay strikes to January as I had offered. our entire focus now is on keeping patients safe, particularly over the next 5 days of strike action, but also through what is the peak period for the NHS.
The surviving suspect in Sunday's mass shooting at Bondi Beach has been charged with 59 offences, including 15 counts of murder and a terrorist act. Naveed Akram appeared in court from his hospital bed after being critically injured. The attack killed 15 people, including a 10-year-old girl, at a Hanukkah celebration targeting Sydney's Jewish community. Police say the gunman was motivated by Islamic State ideology. There had also been reports that the father and son had travelled to the Philippines, though we are now hearing reports that there was no evidence, according to officials, to indicate that those two suspects involved in the shooting had received any form of military training while in the Philippines. So there is no substantive evidence of any terrorist training prior to that attack. A fresh small boat surge is underway this morning, with hundreds of migrants attempting to cross the English Channel. People smuggling gangs have exploited a brief weather window of less than 12 hours, launching boats along a 60-mile stretch of the French coast. At least 400 people are currently attempting the crossing, with some boats already reaching UK waters. That's despite warnings from maritime security officials who say women and children have been put at risk in dangerous conditions. Breaking this morning, a 15-year-old boy has been charged with the murder of 9-year-old Aria Thorpe, who was found dead at her house in Weston-super-Mare on Monday. Police say a post-mortem found the cause of death was a single stab wound, with the teenage suspect remaining in custody ahead of a court appearance later today. Avon and Somerset police say the past 36 hours have been deeply traumatic for the family and the wider community. Officers are continuing their forensic work at the scene, and they're also offering support to local schools. UK inflation has fallen more than expected, easing pressure on household budgets. The Office for National Statistics says CPI inflation dropped to 3.2% in November. That's down from 3.6% and the lowest level in 8 months. Lower food prices, Black Friday clothing discounts and easing alcohol and tobacco costs drove the fall, though inflation remains above the Bank of England's 2% target. And the UK is set to rejoin the Erasmus student exchange programme 5 years after leaving the scheme as part of Brexit. It means UK students will once again be able to study, to train or volunteer across Europe from January 2027. The government says it's agreeing to contribute around £570 million for the 2027-28 academic year. Student leaders, though, have welcomed the move as a huge win. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you shortly.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And you've been getting in touch on gbnews.com/yoursay. Oh, can't get my words out this morning. Gary says, freshly qualified junior doctors are a waste of space. A senior nurse is far better. Well, they might be inexperienced, but they have got 5 or 6 years of very in-depth academic study, which I don't think is replaceable.
I wouldn't call them a waste of space.
No.
However, I think they're behaving abominably.
Yeah.
Selfishly. Look, I don't have a lot of time for West Streeting, but I thought it was quite inspired when he said, delay your industrial action till January when the flu surge is over.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even do that.
I mean, junior doctors do not work as long hours now as they used to because of the EU Working Time Directive.
Yeah.
But my dad was a junior doctor when I was born, and my mum used to take us to the hospital to see him because he just never came home. He worked 100-hour weeks.
Of course he did.
But they don't do quite as many hours. But but they still work incredibly hard and long shifts.
But we shouldn't forget they got a 29% pay rise when Labour got in.
Yeah.
There were no strings attached to it, and I'm sorry, there should have been strings attached.
That was the mistake. I think Labour thought because we're Labour, they'll be reasonable with us. We'll make a deal, and then we can forget about it.
They've got militancy in their nostrils, the BMA, and they are determined to strike. And I don't think there was ever any doubt they were going to go on strike, whatever West Streeting said.
And Dr. Renee Honderkamp was on the show yesterday saying that they've been taken over really by a militant Marxist tendency. They don't really represent the doctors anymore, but they do have the power.
Yeah.
And Michael says, guys, no, the doctors don't have the backing to strike. We need radical reorganisation of the NHS, more scrutiny of where money is spent.
And now remember, friends of GB News can vote in our poll today for free by scanning the QR code. And we're actually asking you, in the light of the UK rejoining the EU Erasmus student exchange programme, we're saying, should young people be allowed to travel freely around Europe? In other words, we're saying, do you agree we're going to get potentially hundreds of thousands of EU students coming to live in Britain? Do you agree with that?
Well, we'll bring you the results shortly. And if you want to become a friend of GB News for free, here's how.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, GB News can reveal a fresh small boat surge is underway this morning with hundreds more migrants attempting to cross the channel.
Our very own Home and Security editor Mark White is in Dover with the latest. Mark, what's happening and how many are on their way?
Well, some concerning news from the Channel, I have to say. Pretty dramatic scenes. We'd been reporting an hour ago a senior maritime source condemning the criminal gangs for pushing these small boats out into less than ideal weather conditions and including women and children on some of these small boats. Well, that weather window, only 12 hours long, is closing in now. It's getting really windy in the middle of the Channel, and that means these boats still crossing are running into difficulties, and we've got at least 2 incidents to report where we believe migrants have fallen off their boats and into the water. As we speak, 2 lifeboats, the Dover lifeboat and the Woolmer lifeboat, are speeding back to Dover Harbour here with a casualty that has been pulled from the water. Another Border Force vessel has also, we understand, pulled a number of casualties from the water in a separate incident and is also now headed back at speed to Dover Harbour. The lifeboat is due in the next 20 to 25 minutes. When that happens, we'll bring you those live images. The Border Force vessel probably about another 10 or 15 minutes behind the lifeboat.
Thanks, Mark. That's Mark White in Dover, and we'll keep you up to date on that with the latest, this new fresh surge of migrants crossing. Now, I'm talking of migrants.
Dozens of immigrants have been arrested in one of the biggest ever raids on illegal working in the UK. And GB News' national reporter Will Godley was given exclusive access to the raid in Swindon, and he sent this report.
Hello. Yeah, there's one in there.
Behind this door, a suspected illegal worker. One of 30 immigration officers believed to be working here, at this huge construction site near Swindon.
Right, come this way.
It's been the subject of many months of investigations, and now more than 100 officers from Wiltshire Police and the Home Office are embarking on the biggest immigration raid ever taken place in the west of England. Well, police officers and immigration officers have cleared the site, gathered the workers here in this warehouse where immigration officers are now carrying out the checks they need to do in order to work out who has a right to work and who doesn't. And it doesn't take long before officers make their first arrest.
You came in a lorry, did you? Okay,
a man from India who came to the UK in the back of a lorry more than 20 years ago and still doesn't have the right to work.
So I can see you've got an appeal against your application which was refused, okay, and that's what you've shown me here, but that doesn't give you the right to work in the UK, and that's why you've been arrested today, okay?
While officers continue their questioning here, on the other side of the building site, immigration officials have found yet further evidence of suspected illegal working.
Interpreter, can you just explain to a male I'm now going to be placing him under immigration arrest? This is because he's an overstay in the UK. Okay. This isn't an arrest.
These two men came to the UK legally from India, but have since overstayed their visas. They've now been placed under arrest by immigration officials.
It looks like we've made over 20 arrests, 24, 25 arrests. We've still got some that we need to speak to. So it's well over 20 arrests so far.
And what's going to happen to these people who have been arrested today? What's the next steps for them?
So I think at the moment we've got 3 who've been arrested for what they call breach of bail. So they're not removable at the moment. So they'll be just escorted off site and they'll have to continue reporting while we process their claim or their appeal. The others we will be looking to detain and remove.
In the last year, immigration officers arrested more than 8,000 illegal workers. The government say it's the largest crackdown since records began.
This is really significant, and it's so important that we continue this pace, and we will. These operations will be 7 days a week, 365 days a year, to ensure that British workers on those construction sites aren't being undercut. That's why this is our operation activity is the highest it's been in British history, with a 63% rise in these visits and arrests.
Today's operation resulted in 29 arrests of suspected illegal workers from both India and Albania. The Home Office will now work to remove them from Britain. Will Godley, GB News, Swindon.
Thank you, Will.
I hope they deport them.
Well,
because what happens to them? They question them and then they get the papers, and what happens to them? They should just be put on a plane back to where they came from.
Well,
they're here illegally.
This story is linked, of course, to Mark White's story of hundreds more people coming across the channel today. If they have no papers, if they destroy their papers and it's impossible to know which country they come from, it's then impossible to deport them. And if their asylum claims take years, as we know they do, they end up working in these illegal places. It's all linked. Oh, it is so depressing.
They've got to get the processing of these asylum cases done so much quicker. It's imperative.
Absolutely.
Now, you've heard in the headlines, resident doctors have begun their 5-day strike. They're demanding a 26% pay rise. They also want more jobs. Many of the jobs for doctors, of course, are going to foreign doctors. I have no idea why. Beyond me.
There seems to be some bottleneck in the system, doesn't there, between training and senior roles. Well, this marks their 14th strike since March 2023, after rejecting a last-minute offer from the Health Secretary last week.
Well, let's talk to GB News reporter Anna Riley, who is with the resident doctors in Hull. Anna, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Yes, we're here on the picket line at Hull Royal Infirmary. Of course, this is the first day of strike action. It's going to be going on for the next 5 days, ending on Monday. It's resident doctors who make up more than half of the medical workforce walking out in both urgent and non-urgent care. I'm joined now by Becky Lavelle. Becky, just tell us now, it's the 14th time now that resident doctors have been out on strike. Why are you here again at the picket line?
Well, the bottom line is that we're here because we have to be, because it's the only way to get the government to respond to our demands. We've asked for negotiations, we've asked for offers for 8 months now, and even before that we warned them that this would happen. We're on strike simply because the government isn't doing its job. It hasn't followed through on its promises to restore our pay or to actually have a reliable workforce plan in place.
And you've got a badge on you that says Dr. Juvenile Delinquent there. What's that in reference to?
So, in recent days, the Health Secretary, Mr. Wes Streeting, in a moment of madness, I think he would agree, went on to refer to members of the BMA and doctors in the BMA as having had an outbreak of juvenile delinquency, which I think is a little unbecoming of a professional. I'd be very happy for him to apologise for that. But yeah, I think to say that a profession of doctors who have dedicated their lives to looking after others, to a pursuit of academia, to call them juvenile delinquents when what we're doing is we're pushing for a sustainable, safe system Yeah, I think it's a little unfair. Yeah.
And we've all heard the comments that Wes Streeting has made as well. He's saying that it's unsafe, it's dangerous. What about the public, though? I mean, we've been on the picket line with you all this morning. There have been a lot of toots of the horns, but what would you say to patients who have had important medical procedures, operations cancelled? You know, this is the 14th time now, so thousands of cancelled appointments.
I'd say that you can lay the blame squarely at the government. Like I said, we don't want to be on strike, but it is our only option. I would really urge anybody who needs urgent or emergency care to attend the hospitals as normal. GP surgeries should also be open. For anybody who's had appointments or procedures cancelled or postponed, I am truly really sorry. No doctor wants to leave a patient in pain, and we really do want to help you, but right now we are under-resourced, we are understaffed, and we're undervalued. What we really need is more than sticking plaster politics. We need a sustainable long-term plan and a solution, and that's why we're here today.
And what's next? Obviously, you're asking for the 20% pay rise, the pay restoration back to 2008 levels. The government have offered to create more specialist jobs, to pay for exam fees. That's been rejected. So what is next now for the BMA and for resident doctors?
Well, we're always open to more offers. We are starting another ballot mandate so that we'll be able to take further strike action for the next 6 months. I would encourage all of my resident doctor colleagues to return that in the post. But yeah, so we're in this for the long term. We mean it. We have 83% of our doctors support us taking this strike action, and we will continue to do it until we get what we need.
Thank you so much, Becky. Thank you for speaking to us here this morning on GB News. So you've heard from the resident doctors. They are not backing down, looking at a mandate now for another 6 months of strike action. So from going in the winter, even potentially into next summer.
That's Anna Riley in Hull. Unapologetic, unrepentant, those doctors. They have lost the room. They have lost public opinion.
Yeah.
I think there was sympathy for them before, but I don't think people are supporting. They've had a 30% pay increase, now I want a 27% pay increase.
I've already spoken to one person who's had their urgent operation cancelled this week.
Yeah.
To be rescheduled, who knows when?
We had that GP on yesterday who said it will have a terrible knock-on effect. Renee said the same. Dr Renee Hunterkamp was with us yesterday, she said the same thing. And, of course, the big prize for Labour was they were going to cut waiting lists.
Yeah.
That is going to wreck that strategy.
And a terrible time of year. And the one thing that really is a genuine problem, which is this lack of training places, Wes Streeting was offered to sort that out. It is a real problem. It does need fixing. But they still won't accept the package.
No, it's appalling. Now, time for the Great British Giveaway. This is your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. It's an incredible £85,000. Here's all the details you need to make it yours. Best of luck.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, Jet Set Starmer strikes spending £60,000 on a private jet for the Lionesses Euros final in July.
Where was the final?
I feel like I should know that, But I did.
Well, we're going to go through that more with the broadcasters Stephen Pound and Mike Parry, both of whom travel in luxurious fashion, but hopefully they pay for themselves, because of course we had to pay the £60,000 as taxpayers. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I think a lot of you at home are going to be quite annoyed with this. Now, Tesco, the big supermarket chain, appears to have got rid of the famous Christmas trees, instead renaming them evergreen
trees.
Evergreen
There's
trees.
the evergreen tree.
Here we are. So if you're listening on the radio, these are pictures of their boxes of artificial Christmas trees without the word Christmas on them at all, instead calling them evergreen trees. There are still a number of Christmas trees available called Christmas trees.
Christmas trees,
but I think it has clearly annoyed quite a lot of people. Why do you call them evergreen trees? Can't you just call them Christmas?
Just call them Christmas trees. I call them Christmas trees even outside of the time of Christmas. If they look like a Christmas tree, I call them a Christmas tree, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And the Conservative leader of the London Assembly, Susan Hall, she's told The Telegraph, it's Christmas. It's a Christmas tree. People don't tend to put up green plastic fir trees for any other reason. It's all stupid nonsense about offending other people and other religions. Well, below that, this is supposed to be a Christian country. We have Christmas. Let's celebrate it, says Susan Hall.
Actually, other religions are not offended by the celebration of Christmas in a Christian country. You speak to Hindus and Buddhists and the vast majority of Muslims, they're not in the slightest bit bothered and actually will join in those celebrations as well. It doesn't offend them. But what you've got are marketing divisions within these big companies where you've got Tarquin and Tabitha who feel that we must, you know, do what we can do to not offend the great British public. But the great British public are the ones that are actually buying the product and they're not in the slightest bit offended.
Can I just say it offends me that we've got Christmas already and it's not December.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power. Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back, 27 minutes past 10. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And we've got our favourite panellist, we say that to all our panellists actually, the broadcasting journalist Mike Parry and the former Labour MP Stephen Pound. Are we going to keep calling you a former Labour MP? You haven't been a Labour MP for about 37 years.
Do you mind? I was a Labour MP for 22 years.
When were you last an MP, Poundy?
I don't know when you stopped. I think when you become a past MP or past it MP.
When did you stand down?
2019.
Oh, it was only 2019, was it?
Yeah.
Yes, were you elected in the Nightbevern Parliament?
Exactly. But actually,
Bevan boy.
I can't remember if it's Gladstone or was it Disraeli.
You're very welcome, Steve.
Hello.
Always.
I bet you in those days when you were an MP, I bet you wouldn't have given the BBC licence away free to people who are on benefits, would you?
Neither would anybody.
Seems to me in this country that if you're on welfare, on benefits,
I agree.
You must get more and more and more. And if you work in the private sector and you're getting hammered on taxes, then you must pay more and more and more
can I
to
just say,
expand the welfare benefit scheme in this country.
This is a proposal from the Culture Secretary, Lisa
It is not. Look, this is an absolute pile of piffle. What this is all about is absolute, utter, total
ocean-going nonsense.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Look, let me just tell you the truth.
You're trying to make it murky waters. You're going to say
murky water.
You're trying to say there's lots of proposals.
Ridiculous.
There's lots of proposals, and this is just one of them.
Can we have a moment of calm, peace, and Christmas joy? Would you?
Could I just say, it is not ocean-going rubbish. It is in a green paper published by this government.
Thank you.
It is a proposal. It is
not
a
a green paper, is Stephen?
Can I just say, of course I'm not a green paper. Well, the proposal is, one of the things that they're considering is putting a paywall for things like traitors and Strictly Come Dancing, so people can...
They'll give those three to the benefit.
And then somehow they transpose that into the fact that anybody who actually pays for a paywall is somehow middle class. Well, I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. You know, who do you think has Sky subs? And how can you define that? Look, and the idea is that certain people...
Sky subs in this studio.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Whoops. Can I just... Would you allow me to interject at this point? Can I just say, this is the season for giving. And you two have been actually enduring for quite a while. I've actually got you a couple of presents, if I may.
Stephen, that's
what a groveler.
I don't know if you can...
Look at that. Mugs with our faces on.
This is the Miriam Kate official fan club.
Thank you very much.
With Miriam's photograph on it, looking fabulous.
Lovely, thank you,
And this
Stephen.
is
Very sweet.
Andrew Pierce, the voice of reason.
So that is heavy irony from Mr.
I tell you what, you can see years ago that Steve was the first up to the teacher with the apple.
That's what's taking it so
Can
far.
I just say, that is a very young Andrew Pierce, by the way.
Wait till you see what I've got for you, Mr. Parry.
Oh, well, I can't wait to tell you.
Thank you, Stephen. Very sweet.
That's very kind of you. And a Christmas card too, Poundy.
Yeah.
Listen, never mind an apple for teacher. I never lost an election.
It's amazing how far you'll go to find a distraction in the middle of a story where, once again, Labour are found to be completely and utterly inept at running this country, and you can't defend them.
I'm sorry, Michael, there's plenty to criticise in every government of every single type, but this particular story is an utter non-story.
It's not.
Well, it is. Nobody's saying that people on benefits are going to get free TV licences.
They are. It's written down. The people who are on welfare benefits.
And do you know who they are? Do you know? Pensioners, people over the age of 75. If you want to call them benefit scroungers, mate, come out and tell that to my...
It's only people on pension credit that are eligible for... So the poorest pensioners are currently eligible for a free TV licence. But what about, Mike, the other proposal, which is to put advertising on the BBC? What do you think about that?
Well, at that point, everybody stops paying the licence fee. How can you possibly ask the taxpayer to fund a commercial operation? It happens in Ireland, by the way. RTE is both funded by the taxpayer and raises money from revenues, and I've been doing it for decades, okay? But that means that you're asking the taxpayer to fund the system that it then makes a commercial profit from. Utter nonsense. I tell you something, some of the biggest, television moguls in the world, and certainly in this country, will not want to see adverts on the BBC. No. It's such a huge operation, it would absolutely diminish the amount of adverts available for commercial television.
If there's one thing we can all agree on, I think that the present funding model is broken. I think we can all agree. Every year, less and less people, fewer and fewer people actually pay it. So fewer and fewer.
I totally agree. I mean,
but look at what they do in America. In America, the home of capitalism, the land of the free, you actually have a thing called public service broadcasting, PSB, and you pay a subscription to it. And I have to say, mostly they show old editions of Hello, Hello, and it ain't half what.
Coronation Street.
But you see, my objection to the licence fee on many levels is also it's expensive now, because if you compare the average Netflix subscription is £12.99 a month. That's £13. So that's £156 a year.
£174
and it's going to go up next year to over £180. Yes, it is.
I think, on balance, the current model, although there are many problems with it, is probably better than any other model. I think the problem is the BBC does too much and it's moved away from its core charter.
Well, not only that, but they've got to decide what they're all about, and certainly if they change them on. I mean, for instance, I hate the BBC for closing down most local newspapers in this country by expanding the websites locally. Why did the BBC ever, in the first place, get involved in local broadcasting? It was sheer pride. You know, when all the commercial stations started opening up around the country, like Radio City in Liverpool, they suddenly said, I tell you what, we'll open Radio Merseyside. Totally unnecessary.
Educate, inform and entertain. That was Lord Reith, or later he turned out to be a bit of a wrong-un, but Lord Reith, when he founded the BBC back in 1923...
Was he a wrong-un?
Oh, man.
We're going to have to jump in because we are going to go straight to Dover with our Home and Security editor, Mark White, who is anticipating the arrival of many small boats this morning. Mark.
Welcome to the UK.
Well, we were telling you in the last half an hour that the lifeboats from Dover and the Womer lifeboats were heading back at pace with a casualty on board. We're looking at the lifeboats heading into harbour now. Not only do they have, it seems, a casualty on board, but they've also picked up the occupants from one of these small boats. It is from what we can see, front and back of the Dover lifeboat, full of migrants. Now, the Dover lifeboat can hold actually up to about 80 migrants on board, so it gives you an indication when you're seeing them at the front and the back just how full it's likely to be. Now, it's accompanied by the Womer Class B rigid inflatable lifeboat that was assisting the Dover lifeboat out in the middle of the channel when reports came through of migrants in the water. At least one migrant was pulled from the water. Now, we don't know what the condition of that migrant is. They've been described as a casualty. To be frank, that can mean anything from someone who is died, to someone who is very hypothermic, to someone who's just a bit cold and wrapped in a blanket. So from what we understand, looking at the two lifeboats now, they came in the eastern arm of the harbour. They are now heading past the lifeboat station, and it looks to me as though they're heading to the Western Jetfoil, which is the Border Force processing centre, that makeshift group of porta cabins and other buildings at Dover Harbour that Border Force use to process the migrants. And the reason for that will be the fact that this lifeboat is not just carrying a casualty, but is carrying dozens of migrants pulled from a boat. Now, in addition to the lifeboats coming in there with migrants that they've taken from a migrant dinghy, we have multiple Border Force vessels out in the channel, some speeding back to Dover as well, having picked up not just from one boat at a time, but double loaded from two boats at a time. So we are expecting that potentially 400 to 500 migrants will have crossed the English Channel by the end of today. And what is remarkable about that is that this was only a tiny weather window of some 12 hours, hardly any time really for the seas to die down. And indeed, they haven't. Although the wind died down for a bit, the seas have remained pretty rough out there. And now the wind's picking up again because that window has passed. So it really is quite, it's kind of deceptive. We look at the images here, it looks flat calm, but in the middle of the channel, it really is rough. The winds are churning up the waves, and that's why migrants are ending up in the water. The Border Force vessel Ranger is on its way back in to Dover Harbour as well, and we are told that there's multiple migrants who are described as casualties, so migrants that fell into the water at some point during the process to try to get them offloaded and onto the Border Force vessels. So there you are, live on GB News. You're watching images of both the Dover and the Womer lifeboats coming into Dover Harbour, heading for the Western Jetfoil to unload the first group of migrants in this fresh surge who've crossed the English Channel today.
Mark White, that's our Home Security Editor, Mark White. We've still got our panel with us, Stephen Pound and Mike Parry. Stephen Pound, foolishly at the weekend, a Labour minister was trumpeting the fact no migrants had crossed for 28 days.
Yeah.
It's all about the weather.
It's
just all about the weather.
Yes,
and then the very day he was boasting, 700 landed
Yeah, I find it extraordinary. I mean, the two things here that are fascinating. Firstly, the actual number of illegal immigrants to this country and immigration generally is actually falling quite dramatically. But the second...
4 million since 21. 4 million.
Yeah, well,
4 million.
Don't forget, under Boris Johnson, 4.2 million in 4 years. Come on, it's a pretty high bar. But look,
I'm not being discriminatory. The whole thing is a disgrace.
Listen, I'm not going to argue with you. But what I would say is that this is the image. This particular image is so corrosive. It's so desperately dangerous. That even if we had absolute zero immigration at any other, these pictures will be the ones that actually resonate with people.
I agree with you. It shows we've lost control.
You're completely lost control. All we've got to do is put out the message, because I thought we had now a hard Home Secretary who's going to get tough and, you know, maybe introduce some of the Denmark type. But all you've got to say is there are no hotels for you anymore. There are no handouts. There are no free phones. You will be charged. No benefits. You will be charged to enter this country, and any wealth you have, what we acquire, we will take off you.
Mike,
the way Denmark
I'm not entirely up to the idea of ripping people's wedding rings off and ripping their
Why not?
out. But look, let's just actually work out a proper read. If people can talk about putting the Royal Navy into the Channel, it's nonsense. The French finally are actually admitting that at the moment the French policy has always been let's get out of our country into the United Kingdom. What they're now realising is if they actually stop this, it actually goes back down the supply chain.
Of course it does.
And so the answer is if the British stop it, the French stop it, then you'll find that
the current French administration doesn't recognise that. It's the future French administration that might recognise that. And just like Starmer, they're reacting to something that might happen in the future to save their political future.
Bardella and
absolutely.
the Front National, or whatever they're called nowadays, they're actually making the case in the same way that, let's be honest, Nigel Farage has actually changed the weather in this country. We can't
you stop all the benefits, Stephen? You're a level-headed, pragmatic
I just think
politician.
it's even more simple than that.
Stop all
I think
the benefits.
actually the proposal by the Conservatives last government and then by Reform now, that if you come here illegally, you cannot stay. Regardless of how verifiable your claim, regardless of how genuinely tragic your story is, if you come here illegally, you can't stay. I think that's the only possible...
But we know there's no will to send people back.
But don't you think it's incredibly difficult to understand how to take children on a school trip? Every parent who wants to volunteer has to go through an extended DBS check, and yet we will take people, anybody, we don't know who they are, what crimes they've committed, into the country, disperse them into the community to do what?
And we don't know what is in their heart. Is there hatred in their heart? Is there hatred for this country?
Well, we know that some of them have committed crimes against young British women, young English women, because their attitude to women in the countries they come from is completely different to our civilised society. Absolutely.
It's not only illegal.
Absolutely.
Look, as I said this before, what they do in Holland is you do not actually set foot out of the airport, out of the seaport, out of the docks until you've been checked and vetted. Now, at the moment, look, you've got this scheme to actually have a place down in
so
Crowborough
many,
in
that would
Sussex.
take a year.
Well, hang on a second. No, we've got a huge backlog, absolutely. But the idea, they're talking about using an ex-military training place in Crowborough. The local residents are up in arms about it.
Surprised.
How can we solve this problem unless we actually have a place to receive the immigrants, to fingerprint them, to take the details?
Receive them. Don't receive them.
If they turn up on the
push them back. Push them back.
Well, hold it there. In the next hour, I will have a cup of coffee in my... I'm not sure about drinking a drink with my face on it. But anyway, sticking on this topic, we're going to be joined now by Professor Anthony Glees, who is a counter-terrorism expert. Professor Glees, thank you so much for joining us. Professor Glees, can you hear me? Oh,
I can, yes.
Now, you're going to talk to us in a minute about seasonal warnings of heightened risk on public transport. But would you mind just commenting, first of all, for us on what we can see here with the number of small boats crossing the Channel with migrants, undocumented migrants, being picked up by British border forces? Do you think that poses a security threat?
Of course it poses a security threat. It poses a direct threat because, as your people are saying, we have no idea who these people are. And even if we did think we had some idea, it would probably be a false idea. And secondly, it poses a national security threat because it enrages people. It turns people to anger. And no sane Brit wants to live in a country which is riven by anger. The failure of the government to deal with this as a national security problem is astounding. People like me, I'm on record, 2015, when Angela Merkel let in, had a stroke, over 1 million people into Germany about whom she knew nothing. I said this will start a security threat in every single EU nation. Of course, we were still part of the EU then. We're out of it, but it is even more of a threat to us after Brexit than it was before. In my opinion, the time has come for those lifeboats. Yes, they're doing a very important thing. They're saving life at sea, but they should be going in the opposite direction.
Quite right, too. Well said, Professor.
Take these people back to France.
I know,
and
because
we should sue the French. This is our expense, but the fault of the French for not safeguarding their southern borders. So it is completely ridiculous, and it is a danger. We do not know, and I think it was Stephen Pound, who used to come and visit us at Brunel University when I was a professor there, always forthright. And he has it absolutely right when he says we're bringing people into Britain who come from cultures who treat women like dirt. We can't be surprised if they behave in the same way in this country. It is completely unacceptable, and the government really does it. And there's constant talk of not involving the Navy. Yes, we should involve the Navy to make sure that the lifeboats go back to France, not to Britain.
And it's, Professor, I think it's also part of the reason why support for our main political parties has collapsed, because the Conservatives presided over this appalling policy of allowing all these people to come in. We don't know who they are. Labour the same. It's no wonder Reform are surging in the polls, because they're saying they will be repelled immediately. Whether they can do it, but at least they're saying it.
Well, I cannot dispute that fact, and it is true in every other European country, that there has been a backlash because the delivery of security is the first aim of any government. And therefore, to see the pictures of our national security being flouted is unacceptable to everybody. I mean, whatever their politics may be. I'm not a creature of the left, but I think people on the left of British politics feel this as strongly. First of all, we need secure borders, and we have to do whatever it takes to have secure borders. We're not going to kill people. I'm not suggesting that. But there are some other remedies. And, you know, we have a brilliant new head of our secret intelligence service, Blaise Metroelli. She actually talked about MI6 needing to be deployed against the smugglers and the dinghies. MI6 does have a license to kill, and in my view, the people who make the boats, the people who get money from selling places on the boats, not the people who are on the boats, but the people making money out of it, they are legitimate targets for MI6. We should jolly well go after these people, and I don't think the British or any other Europeans will be satisfied. They will continue to vote for parties who promise they will stop it. Now, I'm just a pointy-headed academic, so I can't promise anything, but governments do need to sort this. It is their primary duty.
I can't agree. That's Professor Anthony Gleeson, National Security and Counter-Terrorism. So thanks so much for joining us. We're going to go straight back to Dover, where our Home Security Editor, Mark White, can update us on the scenes. If you're listening on the radio, one of the lifeboats appears to have moored. Mark, over to you.
Yes, that's a Dover lifeboat now docked at the Western Jet Foil, and migrant after migrant now walking up that gangway to the processing centre that Border Force has here at Dover Harbour. This is the first of a number of boats that are due in. I can see out at sea at the moment the Border Force vessel Ranger, which is closing down on Dover Harbour as well. Within, I would say, probably the next 10 to 15 minutes, that will arrive here at Dover Harbour. We estimate between 400 to 500 migrants are crossing the English Channel today, and as Professor Anthony Gleeson said, the majority of those, mainly young men, will have no identifying documents. We've filmed as they've tossed those documents in the sea, as they've hidden them in the sand dunes on the other side of the English Channel, all with a view to hiding who their identities are, because they want to stand a better chance of getting asylum here in the UK. But the flip side of that is we don't know who they are. There is obviously a significant security concern.
Thank you, Mark, very much for those, well, very disturbing pictures, and we will, of course, be bringing you up to date throughout the day.
Now, some good news, because the inflation figures has fallen, much sharper than people expected, and we'll look at the reasons why.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for our top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away for some sunshine? Well, it's quite wet actually across parts of Spain, Italy and France, as well as the Canary Islands. We've got some very unsettled weather, a risk of showers for Tenerife through Thursday, and a risk of outbreaks of heavy rain and thunderstorms spread across Spain, Italy and France through Thursday. It does look a little bit drier to end the week, and across eastern areas of the Mediterranean, there's plenty of dry weather to come through Friday and into the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back. GB News, it's good news today. Inflation has fallen from 3.6% to 3.2%. Small fall, but
it's more than expected. But of course, the target is 2%, and when they got into power this lot, it was 2%.
It was.
It's gone very sharply.
Our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, is celebrating in a pub.
Where else would you celebrate in Ireland?
Doogie, good news for pub drinkers.
Well, it may be, it may not be. Of course, I'm in the Northern Whig pub here in Belfast, one of the oldest pubs in and around this area, and a very big outfit. And I have with me Colin Neal of Hospitality Ulster. Colin, is the inflation rates good news?
It's still rising. It's up 3%. And it hasn't come down. We haven't lost all the huge rises we had before. I mean, we're seeing beef up over 40%. The inward costs are still going up, so I wouldn't celebrate the fact that it's just not going up as quickly as it did.
And real problems for pubs very quickly?
Very quickly. We've got over 40% laying off staff, over 70% cutting hours, and actually 20% operating at a loss.
That's not good news. As you can see, most of the pub owners across the UK getting really bad problems. Of course, in Northern Ireland, that rates relief that was given to most of the UK, the Northern Ireland Assembly did not bring that in, which is putting real cash flow problems onto owners of establishments that we all use every single week.
Thank you, Dougie. Well, hopefully some good news heading in the right direction. Well, we've got plenty more to come on the show this morning, discussing those small boats, of course, and also a protest against the Puberty trial in Westminster. We're going to be covering that. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain to come for many in the west today, with rain warnings in force and delays to travel expected. And across the east, there could be some disruption from fog this morning. A warning out across many central eastern areas of fog through the first part of this morning, but that will soon be replaced by cloud and rain as we head into this afternoon. The rain will turn particularly heavy across western areas, parts of Wales, northwest England, western Scotland, southwestern areas of England as well, seeing some very heavy rain. There could be some gusty winds around as well. A milder day on the whole, but very little in the way of sunshine to make the most of those milder temperatures. The rain continues into this evening. There's still a warning in force. We're likely to see quite a lot of water on the roads, particularly across parts of Cornwall and Devon, as well as South Wales, where we've seen a lot of rain over the past couple of weeks. Slightly drier across parts of the far northwest by the time we get to this evening, but there will still be some showers, some of these quite heavy. There's a risk of hail in there too, and some very wet weather across southern areas of Scotland. Across the far east, it will be somewhat drier, but a lot of cloud around, and it could be quite misty and murky. That rain very slowly pushes eastwards overnight tonight, and it will actually return up from the south by the time we head into Thursday. But before then, some clearer skies to come for the northern portion of the UK, Northern Ireland and Scotland, seeing plenty of dry weather overnight. A lot of cloud elsewhere, and as I said, it's going to be quite a murky night. A lot of low cloud lingering. The rain pushes back up from the south through Thursday morning, bringing some very wet weather to southern counties of England, and then once again it's parts of South Wales and southwestern England that will see the heaviest rain throughout Thursday. So there's further disruption to travel expected, more warnings in force. That rain will slowly push northwards, but we are expecting a very damp couple of days, so please keep an eye on the forecast. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health, Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 17th of December, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, is it a Brexit betrayal? Britain is set to rejoin the EU's student exchange scheme that will open the door to tens of thousands of young Europeans up to the age of 30.
Yes, they are not reversing Brexit, they say, but this is a big opportunity for our young people, but it's coming at a cost. I'll bring you more details shortly.
You're looking at live images there of the Border Force vessel Ranger heading towards Dover Harbour with more than 100 migrants on board.
Changes to NHS services across England are set to provide better support for survivors of sexual violence and abuse, according to the government, but we're asking, do they go far enough?
And that support will be provided to ensure that victims of abuse and stalking will get referrals so they get the help they need more quickly.
Elsewhere, the government considers BBC reforms that could bring adverts, subscriptions and free TV licences for benefit claimants paid for by everyone else.
And the Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch takes on the Prime Minister at the final Prime Minister's Questions of the year. We'll have all the build-up. Labour MPs are doing cartwheels over this effectively return of free movement of people for people under the age of 30. If it was students, why are they up to the age of 30?
Mature students, Andrew.
Come on. We're just bowing down on bended knee to the EU, aren't we?
Well, I think so, yes. I mean, in principle, I think it's a good idea to have exchange schemes between students.
Yeah, but they all want to come here.
That's right. And when we were part of it, when we were in the EU, we were paying way over the odds for this scheme because lots of students want to come here to learn English, and far fewer of our students want to go abroad. Now, I think the government's negotiated a 30% discount for the first year if we return to the scheme. But after that, the British taxpayer is on the hook for all of it.
I know. What do you think about that on all our talking points today? You know where to get in touch. But first, we're going to get the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 2 minutes past 11. Well, patients across England are being warned to expect major disruption today as resident doctors have begun their 5-day strike. NHS leaders say the walkouts have come at one of the worst possible moments for the health service. Hospitals are already under pressure from a surge in flu cases, with non-urgent care affected and senior doctors drafted in to cover emergency services during the strike. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is appearing live before the Health and Social Care Committee this morning. coming as those talks with the British Medical Association remain deadlocked. Earlier today, Wes Streeting insisted the government did everything it could to avert the strike and apologised directly to patients for the disruption.
We did everything we could to avert these strikes, even meeting for hours with BMA officials yesterday to see if even at the 11th hour we could avert the strikes. After constructive discussions, we still weren't able to persuade the BMA either to come into negotiations or indeed to delay strikes to January as I had offered. Our entire focus now is on keeping patients safe, particularly over the next 5 days of strike action, but also through what is the peak period for the NHS.
In Australia, the surviving suspect in Sunday's mass shooting at Bondi Beach has been charged with 59 offences, including 15 counts of murder and a terrorist act. Naveed Akram appeared in court from his hospital bed after being critically injured. The attack killed 15 people, including a 10-year-old girl, at a Hanukkah celebration targeting Sydney's Jewish community. Police say the gunman was motivated by Islamic State ideology, making it the deadliest shooting in Australia since 1996. The case is now adjourned until April next year. Well, a fresh small boat surge is underway this morning with hundreds of migrants attempting to cross the English Channel. People smuggling gangs have exploited a brief weather window of less than 12 hours, launching boats along a 60-mile stretch of the French coast. At least 400 people are currently attempting the crossing, some boats already reaching UK waters and a number of migrants arriving in Dover. That's despite warnings from maritime security officials who say women and children have been put at risk in dangerous conditions. In other news this morning, a 15-year-old boy has been charged with the murder of 9-year-old Aria Thorpe, who was found dead at a house in Weston-super-Mare on Monday. Police say a post-mortem found the cause of death was a single stab wound, with the teenage suspect remaining in custody ahead of a court appearance later. Avon and Somerset police say the past 36 hours have been deeply traumatic for Aria's family and for the wider community. Officers are now offering support to local schools. UK inflation has fallen more than expected, easing pressure on household budgets. The Office for National Statistics says inflation dropped to 3.2% in November. That's down from 3.6% and the lowest level in 8 months. Lower food prices, Black Friday clothing discounts and easing alcohol and tobacco costs have driven that fall, though inflation remains above the Bank of England's target. And the UK will rejoin the Erasmus student exchange programme 5 years after leaving the scheme as part of Brexit. It means UK students will once again be able to study, to train and to volunteer across Europe from January 2027. The government says it's agreeing to contribute around £570 million for the 2027-28 academic year, with student leaders welcoming the move as a huge win. Well, those are your latest headlines. Next, though, a look at the market.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
6 minutes past 11, here are the markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3326 and 1.1374 euros. The price of gold is £3,239, 79 pence per ounce. And in fact, I'll leave the last one for Miriam.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, Sam wants me to read out the price of gold, but to be honest, it's too expensive for me, so I'm not going to.
She only does bronze.
Thanks, Andrew. Hello, welcome. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we are going to rejoin the EU's Erasmus student exchange scheme. Now, here's the word here, student exchange scheme, reopening the door to tens of thousands of young Europeans and UK students staying abroad. But they're up to the age of 30. Let's speak to our chief political correspondent, Catherine Polster. 30?
This is really bothering you.
Well, I mean, that's going to be a lot of people who are not students.
But it will only apply to you if you are a student. I mean, you can study at any age, and there are people who don't go to university and then revisit.
Meant to be for young people.
Yeah, but
just coming out who've just finished university.
I don't think there'll be many 30-year-olds. I think it will be largely focused on people who are at an ordinary university age. But I mean, the government's argument is that this will be a benefit to thousands of young British people who will be able to spend a year studying in Europe. They would still pay their normal tuition fees here. They potentially get a grant to cover some of their living costs in Europe, and that this is a great opportunity, and this is something which we used to have pre-Brexit. Of course, it means in return that we will have to return the favour to lots of European
27 countries.
Students, yes, because the EU is bigger than it used to be, and also looking at the numbers as they were, it was previously the case that quite considerably more British students went to Europe than more came here than we went there. Exactly. And they've negotiated this, but they tried to get a discount of 50% off the bill of 120 million. In the event, they got a 30% discount, and that is only for 1 year. So I think there will be questions if it is a good use of taxpayers' money. Of course, they are saying that this is not about reversing Brexit.
Catherine, could you just take a pause?
It's like free movement of people by the back door.
Well, there'll be a youth mobility scheme as well, separate to this. We're still to hear the details of that, but we know that is coming down the line.
Can we just take a pause there, Catherine, because we are going to cross back to our Home and Security editor, Mark White, who is in Dover with some live pictures, we think, of the first Border Force boat picking up illegal immigrants today. Mark.
Well, before, of course, you saw the Dover lifeboat and the Woolmer lifeboat, we can confirm that 75 migrants were taken off the lifeboat. Now, this is the first Border Force vessel of the day to pick up this fresh surge. This is the Border Force vessel Ranger coming in with the occupants of migrant boats that they have picked up. And I can tell you we're in for a very busy time here at Dover Harbour within the next 45 minutes or so, because out there now speeding towards Dover is also the Border Force vessel Defender with the occupants of 2 small boats that they've picked up. The Border Force vessel Typhoon has headed off to another another migrant boat that is being escorted as well. So lots of activity here, as we estimate about 400 to 500 migrants that have crossed the channel at least today, as Border Force vessel Ranger makes its way now down towards the Western Jetfoil to unload at least 100 migrants.
Just briefly, when there was a Labour minister at the weekend bragging that there'd been no migrants crossing the Channel for a month, it was nothing to do with government policy, it was just to do with the weather.
It was just a nonsense to claim that. I mean, to be honest, we said it was the weather all along, and that's exactly what we're seeing, because today is the perfect illustration of that, Andrew. We've only had 12 hours where the winds have died down just enough to allow these flimsy dinghies to get across the channel, and this is the result. Up to 500 migrants in the space of just a short 12-hour window.
Well, shall we go back to our chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster now? Catherine, we were talking about the Erasmus scheme that it looks like the UK may join again. But the last government did institute a replacement to the Erasmus scheme after we left the EU, the Turing scheme, which was kind of similar, but it hasn't been that popular, I don't think.
No, and that was for obviously covering a broader area. We don't know what, if anything, is going to happen to that. So I think there will be plenty of British students thinking this is great, but of course it does feed into a narrative of what the government's ultimate intention is, because the Prime Minister was years ago, the chief sort of voice against Brexit for the second referendum, and
it was his policy.
Yeah,
a shadow Brexit. It was his policy.
Exactly. So they're absolutely now saying no, we're not reversing Brexit, no return to freedom of movement, no return to customs union, single market. But we know there's voices within government saying, well, rejoining the customs union or our customs
being one of them.
union would help growth. And so we're not returning to freedom of movement. But we've got the Erasmus scheme now coming probably from the beginning of 2027. And we know that the youth mobility scheme that we asked the government for months and months and months, and every time they say there's no plans for, right up until the point that suddenly it's happening. Now, we don't know when it's going to come in. We don't know what cap there's going to be or numbers or how long it will be for.
Is there going to be a cap?
But, or is there going to be a cap? But clearly, the EU is a huge bloc, and there will be very large numbers of people who want to come, and the government will say that that's fabulous. Well, let's see.
We're already buckling under the pressure of migration, and this is going to just increase it dramatically.
And I think the problem is that it's the British taxpayer on the hook, because it'll be far more popular for EU students to come here. So we'll end up with the majority of the net funding, and not as many British students will want to go to other countries. Well, we'll see.
I think we might be getting a statement later today in the Commons. Is that so?
Yes.
Thomas Simmons, who's the effective Brexit minister.
Yes, being announced, and Labour will absolutely sell this as a good news story, and I think there will be lots of Labour voters, Labour MPs that will be very, very happy with this. But I think there'll be other voters looking at this and thinking, I'm not sure. And the thing is too, it's going to benefit predominantly middle-class kids who are quite fortunate, and that's great for them. But, of course, we've got not a lot of money around and all sorts of very urgent problems that the levels of migration are definitely contributing
I imagine that the Reform UK MPs will have quite a lot to say when the government make that statement today.
Yes, I should expect so.
Well, we shall be watching that. Remember, friends of GB News can vote in our poll today for free by scanning the QR code on the screen now. And in light of what we've just been talking about, the UK planning to rejoin the EU's Erasmus student exchange programme, we asked you this morning, should young people be allowed to travel freely around Europe? The results are in. 16% of you said yes, 84% said no.
I'm not surprised by that. Now, if you want to become a friend of GB News, of course, here's how you do it.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on your say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, we're joined now by the MP for Neath and East Swansea, Andrew.
Sorry, my earpiece fell out.
It's a good excuse. Yeah. Carolyn Harris, who's launched this year's Everyone Deserves a Christmas campaign. She's done this with the support of local businesses and volunteers across South Wales. They're delivering record numbers of hampers to families across 6 constituencies to help them in the festive period. But let's talk to Carolyn Harris. Good morning to you, Carolyn.
Good morning, both.
Now, this has been running for some time. Tell us what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right, well, it's been going for 9 years, and every year it gets bigger, and we do it because some people have financial problems, other people have family situations which prevent them, or an illness which prevent them actually getting out and doing shopping, and it's just a fantastic opportunity for the community to give to others in the community to make sure everybody gets a bit of festive cheer.
And who are the people who predominantly give to the cause? Is it businesses, local people? How far and wide do the donations come in?
Oh, we've had some quite interesting celebrity contributions. One year we had £15,000 off Gareth Bale. Another year we had approximately 10,000 off Michael Sheen. A couple of years ago, we had some really fantastic auction prizes from the wonderful Rod Stewart, which raised a lot of money. This year we're going to have an auction in in January, and we're going to have something from Catherine Zeta-Jones, something from Catherine Jenkins, and hopefully something from Rod Stewart again. So this isn't sort of just Wales. We get a lot of help from a lot of people from all over. And last year, I actually had a Prime Minister's question, and I asked the Prime Minister to say something nice about the campaign. And on the back of that, I had a telephone call in my office, and somebody donated 25,000.
Good Lord, how extraordinary. It's amazing, Carolyn, isn't it? Although times are tough and there's a cost of living crisis, people dig deep, don't they, to help other people at this sort of time?
Yeah. Bring a bit of love and a bit of joy to everybody. And when you see the faces of the people who will actually get the hampers, it just makes life worth living, honestly, it does.
And what's in the hamper? Come on, what goodies have you got in there?
Well, there's a fresh chicken and a fresh piece of gammon, and there's a veg, and there's chocolate, and there's fruit, and there's cheese, and there's Christmas pudding and mince pies, and Christmas crackers and crackers for cheese, and it's food for 3 or 4 days for a family of about 4 or 5.
That's a lovely thing. How did you recruit Rod Stewart to the campaign? He's not Welsh, of course. He's a very famous Scot.
He is. Well, I know Penny very well. I'm a friend of Penny's from all the work I do on menopause. Yeah. Penny Lancaster, the wonderful Penny Lancaster. And I asked Penny, and Rod very kindly donated it.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
And how important do you see things like this as the work of an MP? Lots of people will be familiar with the work MPs do in Parliament, and then various visits around the constituency, visiting schools and businesses. But how important is it, do you think, to engage in charity work like this?
Well, I don't even see it as charity work. I just see it as community work. And I think it's so important that people know that their MPs, especially in today's climate, actually want to be helpful and useful, and not just someone who turns up in this building and sometimes says something they like and very often says something that they don't like. But this is about being there. And I mean, I struggled myself when I was younger. We didn't have a lot of money, and so I know there are a lot of people out there who've got problems, and this is one way of being there and supporting them. It's being practical, Miriam.
It's a lovely thing to do, because you know each other through the CSJ, through the Centre for Social
Parliament.
Justice.
And Parliament,
And Parliament, of course. And Caroline, of course, you're not quite the woman you used to be, by the way. You've lost quite a lot of weight, Caroline. How have you done that?
Manjaro and exercise. I've lost 9 stone, Andrew.
Isn't that extraordinary? 9 stone.
Wow.
And do you feel much better as a result?
Oh, I feel 20 years younger. That's the best thing I ever done. I mean,
well
I paid for it privately, but it's transformative. I'm healthier, I'm happier, and I got more energy to do even more hampers this year.
Well done you. We just have to ask you one political question, Carolyn. There's a poll today suggesting that Labour have fallen to 10% in Wales, well behind Reform. Are you worried that Reform or Plaid are going to capture Wales in the Assembly elections next year?
Of course I'm concerned. I mean, we saw that from the Caerphilly by-election. I'm concerned, but I just hope that people realise that we are there for the people of Wales, and, you know, we are the party of Wales, regardless of what Plaid Cymru may say. And, you know, we have to stop independence from becoming an issue in Wales like it was in Scotland, and that will be to vote for the Welsh Labour Party.
All right, Carolyn.
Well
Lovely
done.
to see you, and well done on your camper campaign. I think it's terrific, and well done on losing 9 stone. You look fabulous, by the way. Carolyn Harris, who's the MP for Swansea and Nice. Lovely to talk to you. Now let's go to our Great British Giveaway, because you can win £85,000. Here's all the details you need for your chance to make it yours. Best of luck.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, some remarkable breaking news.
The Duke of Marlborough, formerly known as Jamie Blandford, has been charged with intentional strangulation. Charles James Spencer Churchill, a relative of Sir Winston Churchill and Diana, Princess of Wales, is accused of 3 offences between November 2022 and May 2024, Thames Valley Police have said.
Now, up next, resident doctors have started 5 days of strike action at a very time we're in the grip of a flu epidemic.
Well, we'll be going through that and more with broadcasters Stephen Pound and Mike Parry, both of whom seem to be working for Santa. They've brought us some very nice gifts.
They certainly have.
It's Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
11:26, Britain's News on GB News with Andrew Moon. The panel is back, Mike Parry and former Labour MP Stephen Pound. Now, I'm not a great fan of football, and but you are. But you don't follow women's football. But we made the finals of the Euros. We won the Euros again. and the Prime Minister took a private jet to watch the football.
Yeah.
He took his wife and 10 officials, and it cost the taxpayers £60,000.
Yeah, when we say private jet, wasn't it a jet of the fleet of planes that are available to government ministers?
Yes.
But I totally agree with you, 60 grand on what is a jolly. But you see, you've got to understand that Keir Starmer's got a history on this. I think if you look through the expenses register, you'll find that it's not uncommon for Keir Starmer to turn up in the very best directors' boxes of the very best Premier League clubs in this country, for which he does not pay his tickets. I'm not accusing him of anything. He's publicly declared, I have been a guest, you know, at these expensive football matches.
Out of his own pocket a season ticket to Arsenal. But can I just...
Oh, well, excuse me, Steve, before we go on. That season ticket costs X, and the seat in the box that he goes into is X plus 10
And he says
times 10.
about directors' boxes than I do.
He says he needs to be in that director's box
for security.
Rishi Sunak, when he was
Sunak
Prime
used to go
Minister,
to Southampton,
and he used to sit in the normal stands with everybody else.
Slightly smaller crowd.
Exactly.
Do you not both think that it is important that our Prime Minister is at an event where our national team is playing and can win?
Can you imagine if he hadn't been there?
Yeah, and do you really expect him to fly economy on Wizz Air? I mean, honestly.
I think he should have flown British Airways.
Yeah. Well, what I'm surprised...
What if there wasn't an appropriate flight to get him back for an important meeting?
What about the freeloaders, Miriam? What about the freeloading crowd he took with him?
I think you are confusing. I think you're confusing your understandable dislike for Keir Starmer the man with the important constitutional function that he's playing.
10 officials.
Well, can I just say, when Rishi Sunak went on the D-Day commemorations, you know, he came back early. How do you think he came back? It wasn't on Wizz Air, mate, believe you me. No, the key thing here, I have to say, is that if there are 10 people, who were they? Were they part of the sports establishment? Were they finance people?
They were members of his family.
Can I just say...
I would assume.
Andrew, you just said quite rightly that Mike's a big football fan.
That's Mike.
As you know, in the break, he's been weeping quietly.
I have.
Because I...
Mike doesn't do anything quietly.
Why was I shunned?
Because my mate Tony Johnson...
Why was I blown out?
Mugs. So not only has he made an Andrew Pearce fan and a Miriam Kane's fan club, but he's actually got the Mike Parry True...
well, I have to say...
Not just to his politics, but also to Everton FC.
Well, I mean, this is...
Stephen Johnson, thanks a lot, mate.
I feel a little bit rough now that I called you a terrible groveller and a man who probably took
would you pass that along?
an apple to teacher. I now feel enhanced. Thank you very much indeed.
I'm afraid to say none of us have bought you anything.
It was ever thus. You know.
Yes.
All I expect for Christmas is an orange and a holy Bible.
Yes, but do you have a mug like that to put your...
We might have a biscuit under. We've got a biscuit under here.
Biscuits. You can have a biscuit, Poundy.
There you go.
You can have one.
Yeah.
No expense spared at GBNews.
But it's going to be a bad present year for everybody, isn't it? Because nobody can afford to buy anything.
Oh, you've got to lower the tone every time.
No.
Where's the milk of human?
I've got a mate who runs a hospitality outfit, and he's £6,000 down this year on last year in bookings in the month of December, and that is very, very typical of the hospitality industry because of the cost of entertaining.
I appreciate you're from Surrey, and the plush of gin and jags.
Stockbroker belt, mate.
Gin and jags, mate. But I've just moved house in Hanwell, where I do, and within a week of me moving into Cooper Road, Hanwell,
the value of property went down.
Opened next door
to your house.
Yes.
You must have known it was going to open.
Declan.
Have you been in?
I may have popped in from hour to hour.
And do they know who you are? Do they know you're the former MP? And have you had a free drink?
Good. I'd never take a freebie. Never.
Really?
Unlike the Prime Minister.
Exactly, yeah.
He walked into that one, Poundy.
Yes, I know.
Well,
thank God we're not live.
Well, I hope the viewers have enjoyed that sophisticated look at all the headlines this morning.
That's right. At least somebody's going to have a good Christmas, but not anybody who's waiting for a doctor to treat them in this country.
Exactly. Now, happy Christmas to you, boys, because don't forget it's Prime Minister's Questions at midday today, and as always, Tom Harwood and Gloria Tapiero want your questions for the Prime Minister. It is the last one before Christmas. Send them in to GBNews.com/you'll say. Sorry, missed my cue there. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Stick with us.
Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A dull, damp day for many. Some heavy bursts of rain again in the west. We have a Met Office yellow warning in place for parts of South Wales and southwest England. It's actually up to the northwest where the culprit for today's rain is. Deep area of low pressure, lots of isobars across the UK, and these weather fronts gradually pushing in. The heaviest pulses of rain, South Wales and southwest England, where it has been very wet recently, so this extra rain may cause further travel disruption. Pulses of rain working back into the east of Northern Ireland and up into southern Scotland. There will be some brightness across northern Scotland. The rain fairly patchy over eastern England, so many here having a dry afternoon. Temperature-wise, still a bit above average, mostly 9 to 11 degrees. But it will be quite a wet evening, particularly across the south and the west, but the rain extending up through the central belt of Scotland during the evening time as well. Parts of northeast Scotland still dry at this stage. Some showers coming into the northwest. Belfast should be turning drier as we go through the late afternoon into the evening. The rain pulling away from here, but lingering in Wales and southwest England. Again, heavier bursts here. The rain more patchy over the Midlands and eastern England. Parts of East Anglia and the southeast may well stay dry into the evening time, but slowly overnight that rain will be pushing its way further eastwards. Another Met Office yellow warning in place across other parts of southern England. So a lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. Generally, though, becoming quite a bit drier as we go through the night. So most places will start Thursday dry with temperatures at 6 and 7 degrees Celsius. As we go through Thursday, well, there is another pulse of rain. Yes, it starts dry in many areas. There'll be some sunshine for parts of Scotland, but then further rain, again, heavy rain coming in and again falling on ground that is very, very soggy. That is likely to cause further disruption. More Met Office warnings are in place. You can check out those Met Office weather warnings on the Met Office website and app.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Very good morning to you. 11:34. The headlines this hour. The Health Secretary says he's deeply concerned about the impact of doctors' strikes, warning the pressure on the NHS will extend well beyond the next 5 days. Speaking to MPs, Wes Streeting has said consultants covering the walkout will be exhausted heading into the Christmas and New Year rush. He's apologised today to patients and admitted disruption is unavoidable. The surviving suspect in Sunday's Bondi Beach shooting has been charged with 59 offences, including 15 murders. The attack killed 15 people at a Hanukkah event targeting Sydney's Jewish community, the deadliest mass shooting in Australia since 1996. UK inflation has fallen for more than expected, easing pressure on households. The ONS says inflation dropped to 3.2% in November, driven mainly by lower food prices and Black Friday clothing discounts, though it's still above the 2% target. A fresh small boat surge is underway this morning with hundreds of migrants attempting to cross the channel. Smuggling gangs have used a brief weather window to launch boats from the French coast, with around 400 people already at sea. And the UK is set to rejoin the Erasmus scheme 5 years after leaving the EU programme. UK students will be able to study and train in Europe again from January 2027, with ministers expected to confirm the move today. Those are the latest headlines. Now it's back to Andrew and Miriam.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back. It's 24 minutes to 12. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the government's going to announce a multi-million-pound investment to go towards supporting victims and survivors of abuse as part of their violence against women and girls strategy.
Now, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has said that violence against women in the UK is a medical issue and he wants to ensure better ways for doctors to direct victims to support. Well, to tell us now, we're joined in the studio by GB News' national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, tell us a bit more about this announcement today.
Well, the main part of it is called the Steps to Safety Initiative, and it's going to give specialist training to GPs so that they can recognise the signs of domestic abuse, sexual abuse and stalking to better refer it to specialist services so that victims can get the care and the support they need. Now, it's very interesting that this is part of a Health Secretary announcement, isn't it? That this new approach being taken is coming from GPs. And it comes after a lot of government reports and broader reporting have found instances where victims and survivors of sexual abuse were informing medical practitioners, including GPs, about abuse they were suffering, and then nothing was really happening. Proper activity and action was not being taken. I mean, at GB News, we've had a few cases of women that we've been working with to help get action for their stories and to get them support. When they've told us about cases, they've often referred to being in hospital, receiving treatment as a consequence of their abuse, and medical practitioners just not recognising the signs that were very clearly on display. More concerningly, though, and this is perhaps where there is going to be some difficulty for this plan, often GPs and doctors do recognise those signs, pass them on, and then nothing happens. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of detail is brought out.
Well, they pass it on to social services, and that's where they reach the brick wall.
Precisely. I mean, in Rotherham, for example, there's no shortage of cases where GPs were notifying social services about young teenage girls being pregnant, often falling pregnant twice in a year in some cases, referring it to social services and them taking no further action. Now, we obviously understand there are so many reasons as to why that decision was taken, but those decisions were taken. But we also now are getting a wider understanding about those signs not being recognised at the first stage. Those reports aren't even being made. So to have specialist training is going to be welcomed. And we have also heard from the Local Government Association who've welcomed these plans because they recognise that, well, they're saying that social services and councils are struggling with underfunding, and to have the health service step up its support in recognising and acting on these concerns will bridge a gap and will provide further care.
Part of that problem back then, Charlie, was a cultural thing, as we know.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally a cultural issue.
I mean, Charlie, I'm concerned that this just won't make much difference because we have this grey area in this country, which is quite different to other countries, where we have an age of consent, which is 16, but actually our age of statutory rape is only 13. So there's this grey area for girls between the ages of 13 and 16, where they go along to a health service, they report that they're sexually active, they want contraception, whatever it is. They say it's consensual, because, of course, often, that's what the abusers are telling them to say, or maybe they believe it is, and so nothing happens. Would it not be better to change the law so that there is this statutory duty to report? I think that was actually one of the recommendations of the ICSA review, Baroness Jay's review 2 years ago, but the government's done nothing about that.
And that was also another recommendation from Baroness Louise Casey in her audit. Her first recommendation of the 10, looking into when she was reviewing group-based CSE, one of the big legal changes she wants was on the age of consent, and also how the law treats girls and boys when they are targeted under 16. To bridge the gap that you're describing there precisely, Miriam, that there is an issue around the law. I think because there is that grey area, perhaps also lots of doctors don't recognise that themselves. Perhaps social services don't recognise that as well. That also perhaps brings in attitudes towards those children, which then doesn't lead to police or broader government intervention. What the government are announcing today, also another interesting element I want to refer to, is they're going to bring in this child house model. So supporting child victims of abuse, regardless of gender. They're going to have child houses, which will be designed around the needs of children. They only need to share their experiences once, and then there'll be the wraparound care provided elsewhere. And this government release, the Home Office speaking to us yesterday, they've said there's only just one child house in England, which is in North London. So they're going to expand this to ensure that children across the country get access to that service. I expect that will be received very positively by campaigners working in this space. It's quite remarkable that this effective model only operates in one place where services are generally more readily available. So this will close, potentially, an inequality gap operating throughout England to ensure that access is more readily available. We have heard from Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, saying that for too long these crimes have been considered a fact of life. That's not good enough. We will halve it in a decade. A very bold commitment there from the minister. It also says that this government is ensuring that victims and survivors are better supported and given a chance to heal. Miriam, when we were talking about this morning before the programme, we were talking about the fact that a lot of this strategy is about reacting to abuse. What a lot of people actually in the country are talking about is prevention. Will we see enough government policy that prevents abuse? We're going to see more, I think, about education. Do we need to speak to men and boys and society more generally to educate people away from this act? Perhaps also there's going to be a lot of pressure on the government in relation to immigration. We have seen a surge in the number of attacks with regards to small boat migrants and asylum seekers conducting attacks often in the dead of night against lone women, sometimes groups of women. And that has caused a complete political disaster for the government as they are trying to deal with the small boats crisis, which clearly they are struggling with. We've got Mark White out reporting today, showing yet more arrivals. They were boasting about 28 days with no crossings, but that's very swiftly come to an end with one weather opening. And I think it'll be interesting to see the political criticism of this announcement. Will it go into that element? Will it talk about the immigration crisis at the heart of it, which is driving a lot of this concern?
Absolutely. Charlie, as ever, our national reporter Charlie Peters on that very important announcement. Up next, it's going to be a huge protest from MPs, good, against a puberty blocker drug trial being used on children as young as 10. Some are calling it state-sponsored child abuse, and we're going to be joined by one of those who will be at the forefront of the event. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away for some sunshine? Well, it's quite wet actually across parts of Spain, Italy and France, as well as the Canary Islands. We've got some very unsettled weather, a risk of showers for Tenerife through Thursday and a risk of outbreaks of heavy rain and thunderstorms spread across Spain, Italy and France through Thursday. It does look a little bit drier to end the week, and across eastern areas of the Mediterranean, there's plenty of dry weather to come through Friday and into the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Well, it's the last Prime Minister's question before Christmas today. Tom and Gloria are in the studio getting ready for the PMQ's programme. Hello, both of you. What do you expect to come up today at Prime Minister's question time?
Oh, there's so much that could come up, isn't there?
We were discussing this before, actually. Tom was suggesting, will she go on the economy again? Some new, not particularly good data out, although inflation has also fallen too. But we were saying, weren't we, is it too predictable to go on the same subject every week and actually just Keir Starmer have time to prep? So basically, that's a long way of saying we're not sure.
It could be puberty blockers, it could be a whole range of things, but it is the last Prime Minister's questions of the year. And what a year it's been. I mean, I was just looking at the opinion polls. At this time last year, despite all the scandal that had started, the Labour Party was still in first place in the polls. Now in the average polls, it's in third place.
They'd only been in power for 6 months.
It's in third place today. I mean, the most extraordinary turnaround in the space of 12 months.
Midterm. But you know what? So everybody who watches and listens with us, I am sure they will have so many questions. We've got the Conservative guest and we've got the Labour guest. So get them in. Tell us who you are, where you're from, because there's no chance for 3 weeks after today's PMQ.
Absolutely. That's gbnews.com/your say. Send us the questions to our politicians here in the studio.
All right, that's Tom and Gloria, and we'll be glued to it as ever. Prime Minister's questions. Extraordinary as well, because this time, a few months ago, Kemi Badenoch, people said was dead woman walking. Nobody's saying that now.
It's incredible.
She's got a spring in her step.
How quickly things
turned it around with that speech at party conference, and her performances at Prime Minister's questions have been very good, much better anyway. But the polls haven't really shifted.
They haven't.
They've gone up a bit, the Tories, but not much.
Well, they've changed so much since the last election. I'm sure they will change again in some direction, who knows. Well, a group of cross-party MPs and peers are going to be joined by hundreds of campaigners and concerned members of the public today to protest against the trial of puberty blockers on children as young as 10.
Well, joining us now is one of the speakers at the protest, who is the psychotherapist and author Stella O'Malley. Stella, good morning. I still find it absolutely shocking that children as young as 10 could be put into this trial. I can't think what the parents would be thinking of.
In fairness, the parents have been kind of sold this idea that this is the appropriate treatment. It's not the appropriate treatment. We've already had a trial. The NHS have already put 2,000 children on puberty blockers. And because of a blob of bureaucracy, they have somehow allowed the fact that there hasn't been a long-term follow-up on these children. And so we don't know what has happened in the long term, even though they're in Britain right now in their 20s. We don't know what is the long-term outcomes. And so we've had the bizarre idea to do another trial to see how these children will fare if their puberty is blocked. And when you block a child's puberty, you're blocking their development. And so their reproductive system isn't awakened. And then when you put them onto cross-sex hormones, they still haven't awoken the reproductive system. So the desire to pair bond, the desire to have a mate, the desire to fall in love, all of that hasn't been awoken. And instead, they're paralysed in this childlike state, and then with cross-sex hormones, their libido is awakened without the desire to mate. It's a kind of an extraordinary kind of chemically induced adult state that happens when a child goes from a puberty block state onto cross-sex hormones. We've never done it in vast numbers before. We've only done it in the last 15 years. And we have somehow not chosen to follow up. How are those 2,000 children doing? Instead, we're starting to experiment on more children. It is not going to end well, and the Labour Party will be embarrassed about this legacy.
No, you talk about the Labour Party. There has been quite a significant backlash against this trial, including from some MPs in the Labour Party. I know you've got Jonathan Hinder is going to be speaking at the protest. Lots of cross-party support. How many people do you expect to attend this protest, and do you think the government's going to listen?
I don't know how many people. It's been very hard to get it through to the media. Thank you to GBNews. You've been very good at covering it. So I don't know how many people are aware of what's going actually down here. The people who will attend will be very, very angry people. There'll be people like myself. I'm a psychotherapist. The last time I was on a demo, I was, free in Nelson Mandela. It's not normal for me to be on a demo, but there will be doctors, clinicians. There will be concerned parents. There will be detransitionals that I already work with who are very unhappy that their puberty was blocked. There will be lesbians who know that it's same-sex attracted children that are most likely to fall for this. There's going to be gay men, and there will be also many people who are autistic, because they're disproportionately likely to become involved in the idea that
Stella, I'm so sorry to interrupt, to cut you off, because we are going to have to end there, but we will be covering that protest live on GB News.
Certainly will. And, of course, still to come, we've got PMQs, Prime Minister's Questions, the last one of the year. Kemi Badenoch's had a good run lately. Will she make it, will she pull off, if you pardon the pun, a Christmas crack?
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain to come for many in the west today, with rain warnings in force and delays to travel expected. And across the east, there could be some disruption from fog this morning. A warning out across many central eastern areas of fog through the first part of this morning, but that will soon be replaced by cloud and rain as we head into this afternoon. The rain will turn particularly heavy across western areas, parts of Wales, northwest England, western Scotland, southwestern areas of England as well, seeing some very heavy rain. There could be some gusty winds around as well. A milder day on the whole, but very little in the way of sunshine to make the most of those milder temperatures. The rain continues into this evening. There's still a warning in force. We're likely to see quite a lot of water on the roads, particularly across parts of Cornwall and Devon, as well as South Wales, where we've seen a lot of rain over the past couple of weeks. Slightly drier across parts of the far northwest by the time we get to this evening, but there will still be some showers, some of these quite heavy. There's a risk of hail in there too, and some very wet weather across southern areas of Scotland. Across the far east, it will be somewhat drier, but a lot of cloud around, and it could be quite misty and murky. That rain very slowly pushes eastwards overnight tonight, and it will actually return up from the south by the time we head into Thursday. But before then, some clearer skies to come for the northern portion of the UK, Northern Ireland and Scotland, seeing plenty of dry weather overnight. A lot of cloud elsewhere, and as I said, it's going to be quite a murky night. A lot of low cloud lingering. The rain pushes back up from the south through Thursday morning, bringing some very wet weather to southern counties of England, and then once again it's parts of South Wales and southwestern England that will see the heaviest rain throughout Thursday. So there's further disruption to travel expected, more warnings in force. That rain will slowly push northwards, but we are expecting a very damp couple of days, so please keep an eye on the forecast. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.